So, hi everybody, and welcome to the I Founded podcast. My name is Emma. I'm a careers advisor at Cambridge University Career Service, and this series is really a series to focus on inspiring journeys into social innovation and entrepreneurship. And as part of that, we've been talking to some amazing founders. And today we are thrilled to be joined by Laura North, who is the founder of WeSpeak. Do you want to give us a wave, Laura, to say hello? Lovely. Good, nice to meet you. And look, Laura and I are going to be talking through some hot topics around social innovation, what got her started, and how any advice she might have for you out there. So just to give you some information on Laura, she's going to obviously talk and tell us about herself, but just good for you, anybody who wants to just take a note of any of the links if you want to follow up with Laura's organisation afterwards. And we'll also put the links to these down in the description box as well. So Laura is the founder and CEO of WeSpeak, and she's going to talk all about that in just a second. And as with our other podcasts, we have been asking kind of 9 or 10 questions around the theme of what got you started, what keeps you motivated, and any advice you would have for others. So our first 4 questions are going to focus really about that journey into being a founder and what it takes. So if anybody wants to see the kind of topics we're going to talk about, you can pause the screen now. But I'm going to take that down so that Laura and I can have a proper chat together. And first of all then, Laura, so yeah, first of all, huge thanks for being here and welcome. The first thing I really wanted to talk to you about was that journey. Obviously, you had you've had a varied career before you moved into your own venture. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey from graduation to becoming a founder?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just tell you a little bit about WeSpeak first. So WeSpeak works with young people from underrepresented backgrounds who lack speaking confidence, and we train mentors from corporate organisations to help those students build their confidence and connect them with job opportunities. So my journey to being a founder has been quite long and winding, to be honest with you. It kind of came from a fear of speaking myself. So when I was at school and university, I was really just very, very nervous about speaking in front of people. So I just didn't do it and I avoided it. And I think it's sort of something that held me back in my career generally. It's something that started at school, got worse, didn't deal with it. So I went through sort of general other jobs. And then it got to a point where I was just like, this is really holding me back. So I started to think, actually, what can I do about it? So that for me was the point of change. It was dealing with my own challenges that made me want to be, to actually make a difference for other people as well. And I found out that, 50% of school pupils don't feel comfortable about sharing their ideas in front of a class. And what's worse, young people from disadvantaged areas are more than twice as likely to have communication difficulties. So it's a really big issue in terms of getting a job. So it's like helping myself and helping other people. That was how it started.
And what about your journey in terms of what you kind of learn in your, let's call it proper job? Your kind of career before you became a founder? Was there the work you were doing there? What was that career path? But was there any parts of that were building up into, hey, actually, this could be a business? Was there any connection from your kind of early career to becoming a founder?
Do you know what? It was really quite disconnected. So I think something that I felt, because I did English literature at university, and I really didn't have any idea about what I wanted to do. I was just concentrating on getting through my finals. And, people said to me, well, do you want to be a journalist or do you want to be a teacher? And I'm like, I don't think that's my career. So I didn't have a clear career path. So I really just took the first job that I got offered. But helpfully, that was in the sort of field of journalism. So I really enjoyed. I went and I did sort of arts journalism, reviewing, sort of writing about theatre in the West End. And so I did that for about 5 years. And it hasn't really led on to this. I learned lots of skills, that you learn in a job, when you look at, time management and writing and communicating with people. But it was really a really big change. It was something that came from me and wanting to sort of change the focus of what I was doing. So yeah, it's been, I've done other stuff as well. I've done lots of other things. I've written children's books and I've been a digital communications manager, but it's sort of, I've only really taken control, I think, of what I want to do when I sort of wanted to be a founder of a social enterprise.
That's really interesting, that kind of feeling of looking after your own kind of destiny and really kind of shaping it. But I think it's really interesting being an English literature graduate that you are, and then owning a business. I don't think that always connects with graduates, but even other people in business, that you would not be from a business or a science or a techie background, but you can still do that. But also, and I'm the same, I'm an English literature graduate, and I would just go, oh, you're going to be a teacher, and what do you know about Shakespeare?
Yeah, exactly.
I studied a lot of postmodern literature, so not much. But I think the key thing there, what I find interesting you talking about, is being a journalist is quite autonomous, or can be, depending on who's commissioning you. But actually, you also sometimes, a journalist, need to make pitches, don't you? And I think you can be a great writer, but you also need to, particularly in modern journalism, have those other communication skills. So that's interesting. But also that you kind of, writing is communication, isn't it? But it's just not extrovert communication.
Yeah,
and I think
really
that's
true.
interesting to pick up on, is you're clearly quite deft with, if you look at the skill set that you were using, it was all in there, the kind of articulation, it was just the way you were doing it, and you're talking about your own fears. So maybe it was that, when we think about communication in particular, which is what your business is talking about, we think about it as, yes, it's like marketing, but it can also be speech writing, pitching, branding. I have to pitch with my job or give presentations all the time, but it's not something you think about when you think about Careers Advisor. So what I would say, what my point here is I think communications and extrovert communications, which is that presentation and verbalization, is inherent in so many roles.
Yeah.
And probably people can feel held back in so many roles that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
And it starts with school, which is, and you and I have discussed this before, which is when you know that your teacher's going to come to you to read a paragraph aloud in class, and all you're focused on is, oh my God, I'm going to have to read aloud in class. And that's where it starts, I think, so early on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. There's nearly every role you're going to do is around communications, for sure. And I think, like you say, actually, if I look back at the thread of my career, that has been there, like you say, but not those kind of extrovert communications, like writing and sort of, and relationship building within a team, within departments. I did a lot of that as a digital communications manager, and writing children's books. It's all a way of kind of expressing yourself. But as you say, that kind of the thing at school when you have to read aloud, or when you go and, like in a meeting, I still have this now, when you have to go round and introduce yourself and say, hello, my name is, and you're just waiting for it to get to you. So I think I've always wanted to be involved in helping people express themselves, because I think actually that's one of the things that, if you can express yourself, understand what you want to do and what you're passionate about, express yourself, and then go on to take action. That is something that is really important. And if you can't verbalize how you feel, particularly in this sort of quite extrovert world we're living in, how does that impact you with your career development, for example? So I feel it's something that, is really important to look at, even if it's something that you avoid. You just I want people to feel comfortable, really. So
yeah.
And
so important. And I honestly could talk for hours about the interactions I have with clients where they're having to have that extrovert communication as part of recruitment processes, even if they're the best person for the job, but the recruitment process is there. So very interesting. Now, you at the beginning gave us the kind of overview of what WeSpeak does, but I just want to challenge you, if you could talk to us about, maybe summarize the key messages of WeSpeak in 3 words.
Yeah, I would say building speaking confidence.
Great. All right.
You
I
were.
was going to take a sip of water then because I thought it would take longer. So I shall remain dehydrated. Yeah. Speaking with confidence. Love that. Okay. Yeah, what an interesting thing to build a business on. So when did that shift come from, you said about taking control, but being a founder itself is going to take a lot of communication because we've just talked about pitching. Well, you've got to raise money as a founder, to get things off the ground and get people to invest in your business and believe in it. Mm-hmm. So at what point in your career did the shift come to want to be a founder? And how did you go about thinking, yeah, I could do this actually?
So I think there's been several trigger points. And it's been a slow journey for me to kind of come to the conclusion that actually I might have the ability to do it. It's something that, when I graduated, I really was lacking confidence in that kind of self-belief and thinking, am I good enough to do stuff? And I think I would never have seen myself in that space. So, but there was a particular incident when I wanted to enter a social enterprise competition. I started getting interested in, could I have impact in a greater way? And I went to apply for it. And then I read more and saw that you had to pitch in front of 50 people. I just went, oh, well, I'm not doing that then. But I went and joined and watched it. And I saw the pitches and there was someone who had a really similar idea to me get through to the final. I just went, it sort of went, what is it? I've stopped myself doing something that I really care about and that could be really important for the world. And I've stopped myself doing it. Why is that? So I sort of started to interrogate it a bit and sort of started I talked to other people who attended, did you feel, and quite a few people said, oh, I didn't want to pitch in front of 50 people. So that kind of triggered it. And what I did, I went and asked a friend who was really good at speaking. I said, why? How can you be good at speaking? What is it that you do? And basically from that came this kind of event where I got people to talk about how they did it. So I could learn and other people could learn. So really it was it was very organic for me. And I didn't really intend it to be a business at that stage. It was just really going, something needs to change a bit, I think, because there's something that I want to do in life where it's not happening and I want it to change for myself and for other people, That's when I started being able to speak because it felt like it mattered,
So how do you go from saying something needs to change? Actually, it's tangibly affecting me, so it must be, and you quoted some figures at the beginning. So how do you go from, I'm going to pitch because I've got an idea, to actually it becoming a tangible organisation?
Yeah, I think everyone goes through different journeys. Mine has been gradual. I started sort of researching more, and then I sort of pitched for a fellowship at the university I was working for at that time to research more into this area, and I got it. So that was, technically the start of when I was looking into all this. But really, it kind of took me that decision to leave my job completely and go, I'm going to really invest in this. And do it full time. So it was that decision to do that after having done lots of background stuff and really becoming sort of more expert in that space. And for me, a lot of that transition was by signing up to different social enterprise support programs. That's been a big part of how I've developed this. So, for example, I started off with School for Social Entrepreneurs Startup Fellowship, which was amazing grounding, and then Teach First Innovation Series, which helped me pilot the idea and evaluate it. And then, it's sort of gone from there. And then I joined, I've joined Cambridge Social Ventures, which was really, really pivotal in helping me develop the sort of commercial side of it and how I was selling. And so and then on to another one, which was Invest Beyond Business, which has helped me shape it in an amazing way. They've been fantastic. So all these different programs have helped me become a social entrepreneur and also develop the idea in business.
And so what I get from that, which I think is critically important, is that it is a journey. You don't have all the answers at the beginning. You don't magically have an idea that's suddenly commercial. So it kind of sounded there that it was like the opportunity to research and kind of proof concept, then the idea around kind of evaluating it through Teach First. So, you know, that further evaluation of the program, the commercialization stage, which is important, and then the kind of beyond commercialization, which is, hey, where can this actually go? And you'll probably go through that cycle over and over, right, in the life of a business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's constant learning. You know, I really started off knowing absolutely nothing, not having done any study which related to it. Like I really came, like, you know, English literature, like, you know, was not related to this at all. And nor was any of my work beyond the kind of building partnerships and relationships and things like that, and those kind of core skills that you need. But yeah, like it's been very organic for me, and then supported by, like you say, these different parts of the journey, and then repeating. And you know, the word sort of like, you know, do you know the word iteration, you know, when you try something and you change it, you know, that's what it's been like for me.
And you know, that's so important to hear. Do you know what, not just for starting a business, but actually your career, which is you try it out, does it work, how far can you go? So that's, I think the other thing that comes with it is you have to learn to be, so you've got the idea and you see the need, you've got the functional idea, but you're also now then becoming a boss as well, aren't you? And you need an accountant, and you know, so all these things that come along, and you find yourself in all these new roles. How have you found that experience in finding yourself in these new roles, maybe outside of that? I mean, I know as an English student, everything started with me with, well, if I can read about it, I can probably do it or write about it. But it's different when you actually then become responsible for others, isn't it? Oh, you're on mute again, Laura. Don't worry.
It's a huge learning curve, you know, massive. Just like you see, I've had a sort of propensity towards enjoying words and creativity and things like that, to suddenly be faced with, you know, like you say, accounts and cash flows and things like that. And it's been a challenge, you know. I think because I care so much about the business, I want it to work. So I will do things that I wouldn't have done prior to having this business working. I think the thing with that is that I found lots of support, you know, and understanding actually what your strengths and weaknesses are. I think, and being really reflective about that. I really do understand more about that now. And, you know, for example, with the program with Investec, they helped me look at the cash flows and finance. So actually getting, as a social enterprise, you do have a lot of support. There's a lot of goodwill, and people, you know, do share the sort of passion that you have for it and making a change. And, you know, people are willing to help you. So I think I've, you know, learned how to work, you know, draw support from other people. And also I love collaboration anyway. I enjoy working with other people and sharing that responsibility.
And how have you come across those opportunities? Have you found that they just kind of organically stemmed from the other?
Yeah, it's funny. It's like thinking back to how I heard about things. I think once you're in a bit of a social enterprise network, you do start hearing about things. You know, for example, School for Social Entrepreneurs have a great newsletter which goes out every week, which has lots of opportunities into it. And what's great about the programs is that you join them, but then you're part of the community. So I've got lots of sort of social enterprise networks now, which I'm part of. So you do hear about things, and then you go, oh, that could be good for that stage. And like I said, it's a very collaborative sector, I would say. You know, people are really, really interested in helping each other. You know,
yes.
Some of my colleagues have just shared, you know, their whole kind of, you know, training program for me to look at and learn from. So it's a very, very generous sort of spirited sector, I'd say.
And, you know, every entrepreneur I've spoken to, I started interviewing entrepreneurs not 2019. I thought we've lost a year into the ether.
We have.
When I wrote an article for a research journal, and that was the same message, which was actually, it's not this cutthroat dog eat dog competitive world that maybe sometime, well, even pitching competitions kind of put that across, don't they? it's about actually, I was interviewing a couple of entrepreneurs who were working in a kind of shared hub, like a shared office space, where other like an incubator where other people were, and they said it's brilliant because if I need to know something about my app, I can just go across because these people are designing the bit of software that I use, and actually really collaborative. And the best thing that comes, the best kind of pitching competitions are where you get mentoring, not just you've won money or not, because the mentoring is actually the valuable part. So that's, if you're collaborative, I think it really helps, but not to go in thinking everybody's my competitor, because rarely they are.
Exactly. I mean, there may be sort of certain parts of the business world, which are more cutthroat. I mean, certainly the social enterprise sector, from my experience, has been very collaborative. Like you say, it's not just the funding the organisations, the programs give you, and sometimes they don't give you funding. It's the support that I've had from the mentors. For example, my mentor from the School for Social Entrepreneurs, when I first started, is still with me now, helping me. And, he's going to be a director of the company. So I think and the relationships that you build up and the amount of support that my mentors have given me, I mean, it's absolutely vast, and really kind of, asking for help is something that I've learned a lot, actually. Just going, ask for help, and it comes back, and, and you help other people, and it's reciprocal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does go both ways, because one day somebody will genuinely need your advice. Well, like me asking you now. So how important then? So fear of failure is definitely not helpful. How important is failure in any form in the founder journey?
I think it's so important to accept that you'll make mistakes. It's something that I was really uncomfortable with probably earlier on. And just because I think I'm naturally a bit of a perfectionist. So that perfectionism sort of stopped me from taking action, because I just didn't think, it's not going to be good enough, so I just won't even bother. So I kind of lower my standards in order to be able to just get out the door and say, let's just do it, and saying yes to things rather than just going, I'm going to kind of, wait and see what happens. So, and inevitably, the more that you do, the more it's just not going to work sometimes. So I think, I do really think it's important to, accept failure. I'm not like a massive fan of saying like I embrace failure, because I kind of essentially want it to work in the end. But when you make mistakes, which you will do, it's learning from them, reflecting on it, and go, actually, how can I not do that again? How can I do it differently? And it is the best way of learning, because you just wait. If it's been a really bad mistake, you just don't want to do it again. So, it's that learning process, which is, good and bad. And, not giving up, I think, is really, really key to it. So key. That's my biggest thing, I would say, not giving up.
I think there's this difference, like this informed failure, which is actually, I really actually did go into it with as much information as I could. I used the frameworks, I tested my idea, I'd done, a market sizing, I got advice. Like if you've gone into something knowing you've prepared for it the best you can, then you can only learn from it, which is, God, I just missed that 1%. Like I just missed that one thing, or actually the time just wasn't right. But it's the learning, isn't it, that's so important.
Yeah. Actually, someone told me that failure is just feedback, which I quite liked. It's just a sort of way of telling you what you should do differently next time. So that's quite a nice way to look at it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously there's scales of failures, there is scales, but
exactly.
I think on a micro level, it can be really debilitating, the fear of failure,
Yeah, and I think, honestly, it is riddled with failures. Like, however you want to term it, things that don't go according to plan, they just don't. Like, and it's quite tiring, actually, but you get a bit used to it. Like, what challenges are going to come up today? What's not going to work? For example, when you're doing, programs, someone drops out at the last minute. How do you sort of fix that? You're constantly doing that all the time, and you get a bit used to it, I think. So it becomes a bit of a way of existing.
You just readjust your expectations, essentially. You just the contingency. So the reason I ask about failure is, I mean, particularly at a graduate level, is I think there's a lot of rejection in recruitment processes, but there's also a lot of rejection in asking people for money for your business and, applying for things or even asking for help. So what would be if you I get asked a lot about, well, I want to work for a social innovation. I want to be part of that world. But the very makeup of social innovations means that that's not always an accessible route to just kind of take people on. But if you were, what advice would you give to somebody who was looking to kind of gain experience as to whether this industry was right for them?
Yeah, I think, like you say, social enterprises don't often have much money, so that's the challenge. And they often, I certainly have wanted to hire people and not really been in the position to. I mean, I'm always really interested in speaking to people who are just passionate and enthusiastic about the enterprise, but about anything really. And so I think its starting point is to really look at what you care about. What are you interested in? What are you passionate about? And then look around for social enterprises which might fit that. Or if you see social enterprise and you think, wow, actually what they're doing is really inspiring. Because, I would say, if anyone contacted me and said, I love what you're doing, this is really exciting, how can I get involved? My brain would start going, oh, this person seems, enthusiastic about this. So I think there are ways in. It's just not your conventional ways in. Like, for example, WeSpeak, we hire and pay a lot of university students to facilitate on our programs. So there's little ways of, it's not very, it's like a couple of hours a week. It's a very sort of part-time sort of freelance role, but it's a way to get to understand the business. And then someone who's been doing that role, as soon as we've got, the funding to hire them in another role, we will do. Because, I would say we're definitely look for people who have the kind of enthusiasm and passion and interest and proactiveness rather than a set of skills. And I mean, I can't talk for all my colleagues, but I would say that would be quite prevalent in this space. So there's lots of ways for work. Lots of social enterprises have volunteering roles. Volunteer tutors, for example. I just think if you can get in those spaces and start talking to people, then quite quickly opportunities will arise.
And I think, I mean, this is the advice there's two bits of advice I give, and you can tell me what you think. And that is, and because I used to interview interns for an arts organisation. And the first thing would be, you've got to show that you really understand what they do, so that to show that passion, but also to show where you can add value. So that is, if someone's going to, even have a phone call with somebody, if you can show, hey, listen, I've seen what your business does. I've got these skills. So basically, you're not going to have to babysit me. Like, I can actually do something for you. I'm not just looking to kind of take in experience by osmosis. And I would say that most students who have been at university for a little while and who have been active in the kind of university community in their own ways will have something to offer if they're passionate about an organisation. But probably that pitch of, here's what I've got to offer, I understand what your business does and I want to know more about it. So just being really clear that you've actually taken some time to research the organisation and how you'd fit into it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's very true. I mean, there is a kind of challenge with social enterprises in their early stages, is that they might want to, like I say, with WeSpeak, we might want to sort of hire people. We're just not in that position to do it. So I think, I mean, something that I've been told quite a lot is to ask advice from people, because and really, I would say a lot of the stuff that's come about in terms of, sales, for example, for WeSpeak, I thought there might be some sort of magic formula which I was not confident enough to do and sell to people. But actually, really what I've learned is that a lot of it is just about relationship building and understanding people's needs, understanding where there's mutual benefit. And really, it's not necessarily going to be like, I've got these skills, I want to work for you. It's more of a kind of a slower burn process where you might speak to someone, get advice. They might think of you for something. They might connect you up with someone. I will always try and think about an opportunity for someone who contacts me if they seem enthusiastic and, passionate about something. you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, because I'm so glad you said that, because the second thing I was going to say is the piece of advice I give is don't ask for a job, ask for a cup of coffee. So ask for a chat. Because if you go straight in with, have you got any internships? I'm available between the 5th of August and, you know, the 18th of September. Please can I come and be with you for 6 weeks? It's pretty overwhelming when you've literally trying to manage your own business at the same time. But if somebody says, I'd really like to know more about what you do because it's something I'm interested in the future, have you got 15 minutes for a Zoom call? You might never get back to them because you've got enough to manage. But I think it's more manageable than, God, have I got 6 weeks and can this person do this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, most social entrepreneur founders I know will always be happy to help, you know, and the only reason why they might not answer for any reason is just because they're too busy. It's just because they have so many things on. But really, you know, absolutely, it's much easier to kind of, and I've found this, you know, asking people just for like, I'm really interested in what you're doing. Can I, you know, have some advice? I'm interested in getting into the social enterprise sector or working in that space. You know, so I think definitely the advice route is a good way to go, and just think about it as a relationship building thing, not just as a, can I have a job, or I'm interested in doing this, and then that's it. You know, but like, for example, people who come on the WeSpeak program, what we're doing now in terms of actually developing their own confidence, I'm starting to hire people from that program to work as a facilitator for the next program, because they have a great understanding because they've been through it themselves. You know, so there's lots of different ways in, I would say.
Absolutely. And I can track my career back to I used to work a lot with young people on summer schools, like rock climbing, etc. And I can track my career I have now back to the deputy head teacher at the end of the trip saying, I was in my first year of university. I just finished this trip with them in Cornwall with these year 9 students. And he said, oh, there's a woman at your university and she runs widening participation programs. You should contact her and ask her if you can be a widening participation ambassador. They do all these kinds of work that you can do. And that was in my first year of uni. I emailed her and she said, yeah, brilliant. Here's an application form. We start training in September when you come back in your second year. And literally every job I've had since then has come from that. And it was just because one person said that. So it was, you know, it's really interesting if you just listen to people's advice and they know people and things like that. And I think probably with smaller organizations or less tangible things, like education, widening participation, social innovation, it's about that network of people that might need help.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you know, I work a lot with students, you know, in the business, and I'm a big fan of working with student ambassadors. You know, they're coming on our programs, and I'm hiring them, and because I think they have had that sort of work experience as well, and you know, that's a really, really big thing. And also interns, you know, I think that's we've worked with quite a few interns too. So I think, and then like you say, it can just be one thing that sort of points you in that particular direction. You know, someone who says something, and like you say, you know, connects you up with the right person who does have capacity to work with you in that instance. So
yeah. So without the kind of getting the insight, there's definitely kind of an image or a vision, I think, that we think of when we think of social innovation, which is kind of a glossy, feel good, you know, everybody's kind of, you know, really working on really cool kind of high impact things. But what do you think the biggest misconceptions of being a social innovation founder or venture founder are?
Yeah, I mean, I think as with everything, it's really hard work. You know, I think that, you know, people are doing really good, cool things, and really, you know, but it's taken a lot of work to get there. You know, lots of stuff which hasn't worked so well. You know, I mean, I guess in some ways, I'm not sure I wanted to know how much work it was involved, otherwise I might not have done it. Like, I don't want to put people off, but I think it's better to go into it going, actually, this is really interesting. And then actually, by the time you've done project work on it and you've done development, you're kind of invested. But there are a lot of different things that you learn and do. I mean, I 100% wouldn't swap it for anything else. It's been the most amazing experience, really, and it fits me so much better than anything else I've done. it sort of, connects with all sorts of different things like communication skills, but strategy. You've got to be really creative. I don't know how business isn't seen as necessarily a creative thing. You have to be so creative, really, really thinking of problem solving. It's brilliant. It keeps me completely occupied. But I've completely forgotten what I was saying now. What was the question again? Sorry.
Misconceptions of being a founder. And you said it was so much hard work. You wouldn't like to know about how much work it was.
Yeah. But I think it is amazing. It's amazing. I think the other misconception maybe is that, maybe people kind of group social enterprise and charities very closely. And of course, there's lots of links. But actually, social enterprise and trading is a really big part of what WeSpeak does, and quite a lot of my colleagues. It's about creating a service or a product and selling it, and then reinvesting, into sort of social good. And so it's not just like a charity. So I think there needs to be a bit of a distinction between them, even though there was a lot of crossover. That's quite a big thing too.
It's just a different kind of business. It's still business, but a different kind of business.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's, it's a business, but the focus is more on, social impact rather than profit for shareholders. That sort of thing. It's about, but quite a few people that I know have said that when they started their social enterprise, they focused a lot on grant funding, which you kind of do need that support, but actually they wish that they'd looked more quickly at how you generate revenue, because it helps you become sustainable. So that's what I've tried to do, really focus on building the revenue, so you get into sustainability quicker.
Yeah, that's really very interesting, because I suppose you can only do the good long term if you're sustainable, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's not about just making money, it's about actually how do we keep this, how do we grow this to be as impactful as we can for the longest time possible, even if it changes and evolves, that you can still be there to exist, to change and evolve.
Yeah, exactly. And as a founder, you need to, start paying yourself as well, and that's taken that's been a journey. And you can only really pay yourself if you're sort of generating enough income, and then paying staff. And, it's just, it's a really, really, really important thing.
And I think you can probably say more about this, but I think increasingly, as a careers advisor and recruitment specialist, what I've seen is a much bigger shift in corporate social responsibility, where it isn't all about going for grants and funding, that actually the world's social innovation and the corporate world can cross paths helpfully, or nudge shoulders helpfully, without getting kind of subsumed into the other, because there are businesses that are kind of helped there to partner with social innovations for their own needs as well as financial for the innovation.
Yeah, so you're saying that can corporates and social businesses sort of work together effectively?
Yeah, so in terms of I see some social innovations have corporate partners. I think the confusion is that you can't be involved with a large corporation if you're a social innovation, but actually there are corporations that want to actually harness the power of social innovation to help them do good. But it can benefit you as a founder financially, because then you've got kind of another avenue to boost your kind of business.
Yeah, and I would say corporate organisations are completely core to WeSpeak, and it's not just that we can benefit financially from that partnership. The people that I'm working with in the corporate organisations are so aligned with the vision and really, really love what we're doing, and want to be, they're part of it, and they're absolutely intrinsic to this, because we're training corporate mentors to share their experiences with students and really help them build their confidence. So the mentors from corporate organisations build their mentoring skills, how to help young people who are less confident speak and communicate, which is stuff that they can take back to their organisations. And really, in terms of recruiting young people from lots of different backgrounds, is such an invaluable skill. And they love seeing the change in the students who are working with, who, you know, go on to just be so authentic and really, really comfortable speaking and interacting with employers. So I just think it's a very symbiotic relationship that we have with corporates. And, you know, we're working with, you know, Investec Bank, Wavemaker, which is a big media agency, Just Eat, and they're all the men, you know, and others too, and all their mentors there are just very, very, very invested and a really pivotal part of the business. So certainly that's our experience.
Yeah, and I wanted to raise that because I knew that was part of what WeSpeak does, and just talking about misconceptions, which was, you know, they're not alien things to each other, and, you know, they actually are really kind of symbiotic, and I think that's really important. About conceptions or like perceptions of social innovation, you know, and things kind of and how they run. So last two questions. The penultimate being, I think it's really interesting, and probably could talk for hours but won't, about how, of course, we've been through humanitarian crisis in the last 12 months, and that's first and foremost, you know, a problem there, but it has knock-on effects in so many ways. And your business is focused on, your innovation is focused on communication, and, you know, being that confidence to speak up and to articulate. And I wondered, not because I want you to solve it, but what your thoughts were on how that might be changed in this kind of digital world of schooling during the various lockdowns, and how that, you know, how you might have thought about your business in that scope, but more what you've learned about your innovation over the last 12 months in terms of its value, its resilience, anything about your team, anything you didn't know before that's been nuancedly picked up by unusual circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, it's been such a strange year for everybody, hasn't it, 2020? And a really, really challenging year for many different reasons. I mean, for us, it was, you know, in March, we were in the middle of delivering programs in person to schools, and, you know, went into lockdown and all that. We had to stop in the middle of them. And it was at that point where I had been working really, really hard, and the team had been working really hard to get things, you know, growing. And so it was a real point where you just go, really, you know, is this the time just to give up on it all? So it just felt so insurmountable, especially when we were all a bit exhausted anyway. But actually what happened was, I think it's been a huge lesson in not giving up this year, because just sort of pushed through and went, you know what, we can try this digitally, we can run this program online, we just need a bit of support. And I was lucky enough to get some funding from Cambridge Judge Business School, from a COVID recovery thing for enterprises from them, and also Investec, who've been fantastic. You know, we won this Investec Beyond Business program the previous year. They gave us lots of mentors to test this out, and actually everyone came together and it worked really, really well. So I didn't think that it would translate as well to online as it did. And actually what's happened is that it's increased the reach, first of all, geographically, and also for corporate mentors, it's much easier for them to get involved. So actually it's grown, you know, since then. And, you know, so for me, it's been a really big learning experience about how something can seem really, really difficult. And actually, if you don't give up and you keep pressing on and you have a degree of faith in it, that it can turn a corner. In terms of communications, it's really interesting, isn't it, how much, you know, we have now moved across to, you know, Zoom and Teams and all these things. I think that it definitely presents challenges for young people who are less confident speaking, because you can hide away and you get less interaction with people, and, you know, it can consolidate the kind of fears around communication. So that's definitely a challenge. On the other hand, what we've seen through our WeSpeak workshops online is that actually everybody, if you facilitate the conversations well, everybody has equal voice. much more than you would do if you were in a room, because people can hide away at the back of a classroom or, you know, in a seminar group at university or whatever, or in a meeting. Whereas here, like, everybody has the same sort of real estate. So if you can split into pairs, one of the reasons why we use Zoom is that you can go into pairs and small groups, which really helps with, you know, kind of communication. Then everybody has this equal chance to speak. So I think there's pros and cons, right? And I think that, but I think it does open up some opportunities for, you know, maybe more equal communications.
And I think what you get with the digital communication, which is interesting, is that you get that you have to manage your energy when you're going to be talking a lot, don't you? You have to manage your energy in conversations. And I think the digital environment has allowed you to manage your energy in the sense of you don't have to then be turned on to go and talk to people in a corridor or in the, you know, maybe in the rest of your classroom, or deal with any commentary after you've done your presentation in the class of, you know, of people talking to you. You can do your presentation and that might be enough. You don't have to worry about people talking around you or the energy in the room. You can really just focus on what you've got to say and how you're going to present it. So it kind of builds in some nice parameters as well.
Yeah, I think so too. And you've also got other ways of communicating, like through the chat system. So, you know, you might not have wanted to ask a question verbally in front of a big group, but you can do it via the chat. So, you know, and like you say, there is this kind of, you can just speak and then sit back a little bit. I agree. I think it gives you that opportunity to do that.
So, you know, brilliant that you've been able to recognise expansion. Things have been easier. Some barriers have been taken down geographically, and those are all only positive things when trying to connect with young people and kind of give them the best opportunities, really, isn't it? The less kind of barriers, the better. All right, final question then. If you can cast your mind back with your time turner to when you were just about to graduate or whilst you were studying, what would you say to that person then that you didn't know then, but you do know now that could help?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me is that when I was graduating, I was, you know, not sure about what I wanted to do. And I was, you know, again, sort of lacking some of that confidence and belief that I could get, you know, go and do on whatever I wanted. I think one of the biggest things is that this perception of what a leader is, that's the thing that I would have liked to tell myself then, that we all sort of, well, I thought at the time that traditional sense of the leader, you know, the quite, you know, male, quite sort of overconfident, tell people what to do, charismatic, you know, loud, outspoken sort of presence. That's in my head. That's what I thought a leader was. And also, I didn't even know what a founder was, but certainly if I thought of an entrepreneur, I thought of someone like Richard Branson or something, you know, and it was so far away from how I viewed myself. And what I realise now is that actually what I'm doing is such a great fit for me. You know, I love partnership building. I love talking to people. I like communicating. I like listening. I like collaborating. You know, actually those things, you know, you can make you a good leader because it's not hierarchical. It's, you know, you're part of a shared endeavour. So I would have loved to have known that, because I think I spent quite a long time just maybe not really completely fulfilled in what I was doing and not really feeling like, you know, I was having that impact in the world, which I really wanted to have. And now, you know, I can see the tangible impact about, you know, on the students that we work with. And it's just so amazing to see that. And I feel so much, you know, I feel really great about that. So I wish I'd known that.
Yeah. Perceptions of, you know, what roles are is really important advice. And just to always question, hey, why do I think that? Is it because that's probably what the television or films or media has shown me, which is then kind of replicated in the behaviours of my peers and the people I see? Or actually, I think you just have to missile seek out the people that are a bit more like you or look like you, or, you know, the same gender as you or whatever, where you go, actually, no, there is one person. All I need is one other person that could do it. And if I can't find them, well, then I'm going to have to be the person. So just questioning why you have the perceptions, I think, is key.
Exactly. And also not letting a lack of confidence hold you back, or if you're sort of more introverted, it feels like sometimes there's not a place for your voice, but it isn't true. And actually, I think that the more you can connect with what you care about and find your own way to express it, that's what's key. And it makes me so annoyed when the people who speak the loudest are the people that get heard. So that's our mission, is to try and alter that balance, so people who maybe aren't the loudest voice in the room still get heard and get valued. And I think we all have people who are more inclined that way. I want everyone to get together and make sure that we all get our voices heard in some way, in a way that's comfortable for us.
Well, I think it's great work and a very interesting business, Laura. And, by helping people find their voice and to articulate themselves, you're also creating future leaders. You're creating people that might speak up in the meeting that makes the difference. You're helping somebody who might have the right idea at the right time get that across, when somebody who has the wrong idea at the right time get it instead. And I think that's just absolutely critical in young people. In all, do you know what? In all of us, in people I work with every day, and really talented people who, we all have to talk and share every day. But I know that there's people, from working with young people, most of my career, that there'll be people that you'll actually be really changing. So, yeah, that's my little fan letter to you. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just really passionate about it. So I think it's brilliant. And some of the advice you shared about building your business has been really, really interesting. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much too.
I'll just share my screen so that if anybody wanted to see the kind of specific questions I asked, you can see them just on the screen there. And you'll see also that I have put navigation in the description box below. All right, so all we've got left to say really is that you can, if you haven't already, you can follow the rest of the podcast by subscribing on YouTube, and even just putting the hashtag #IFounded into YouTube will bring the series up. And yeah, please do visit us at careerscam.ac.uk if you'd like to listen to any of our podcasts. Laura, have you got anything you'd like to say finally?
Not really, only just if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'll always try and respond. Like I say, the only reason why I might not is when things are just completely hectic, but feel free to reach out to me for any advice.
Great. Well, that's very generous. Okay, Laura, well, enjoy the rest of the Lent. I was going to say the Lent term, but the rest of kind of the spring as we come into it. And thank you for your sharing your advice. And it is a Friday when we're recording this, so I wish you a good weekend. I will also do the new thing that I do in meetings, which is wave at people, which I didn't do in person, and I quite enjoy it. So I'm now going to wave to say goodbye. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Emily.